habari za usubuhi. So I had a nice lesson yesterday. Some junior staff took me for a drive to the beach in Sea Club, which was very nice. I had some red salmon. So that was my lesson in Swahili. It's my pleasure to, I hope you guys can hear me. I'm suffering with a bit of a cold. So I need to protect my vocal cords a little bit, but also speak loud enough for everybody at the back to hear. Okay, so do I move these slides myself? Okay, so I thought I would do a bit of a reflection today, looking back at the council when we started, because we can learn from those lessons as we look forward. How do we wish to build the AAPS and physiology on the African continent? So a bit of a visionary look at perhaps where we could go to and where we came from. I'm based at the Center for Cardiometabolic Research in Africa, Karma, Good Karma. I'm the director of the center, Stellenbosch University. It's in Cape Town. You're welcome to visit. It's a beautiful city and a beautiful institution. So this is where we started. The previous AAPS Congress was held in Johannesburg, but virtually because of the COVID pandemic. And so we attracted a lovely crowd, still 191 delegates, and plenty of discussions, as you can see, and it was quite fruitful. But very importantly, it allowed us to elect a new council at that time. And that was important, and just 4 countries, Egypt, Nigeria, South Africa, Sudan. So that was the council, myself as the president. It's working. And so we had our first council meeting as well, because previously we only met every 4 years, so which is not feasible. So from the pandemic, at least we got Zoom and MS Teams meetings, so we could meet more often, a plus point. And we just sort of looked at what do we do? So that's our vision, the previous version. And the mission, it's good things: strengthen organizational capacity, cooperation, promote research capacity, enhance teaching and learning, capacity building of young people, facilitate knowledge exchanges, and that we enhance communication. So these are very good ideas. It's often just to implement them is the problem. So we pulled out of that the core ideas as listed there for us as a council and said, okay, let's see how we can best pursue this over the course of the next 4 years. Okay? And so I had to bring in an African proverb: smooth seas do not make skillful sailors. So that through discomfort and challenges allows for growth. So we took this head on and said, like, we're going to think big and see how far we can get with this. Okay? So then we established several work streams from those core mission indicators. As indicated, organizational, I took that on personally. Look at the vision and mission. Expand regional membership. We had only 4 countries. Reassess membership benefits. Look at the database for the African continent. Because Professor Ray would call me, do you know somebody in country X? And I go, okay, so we need to address that. And linking with other societies on a global scale. And then each of these, as you can see, we sort of broken down. Research and collaboration, teaching, training, teaching and learning. How can we now manifest that in action? So that is the next step, okay? So each person got a briefing, capacity building, conference and awards. Professor Lamis worked on that. How can we bring for the AAPS certain prestigious awards into the planning? And communication and outreach, newsletters, websites, how are we going to go about all of this? Okay, so that is a nice roadmap to go forward. And then we set the targets for 4 years. Okay, we had to get buy-in. We all voluntary positions, so we had to get people to actually do the work, which is a big job because we're all quite busy as faculty and as staff. And then we could meet. We set 4 times a year, and assess our progress and see how far we can get in terms of accomplishing our mission. So I'm going to quickly give you a bit of a synopsis on all of those work streams, what we've got so far, and then look a bit forward at some of the challenges and solutions potentially. So we changed our vision, number one, after some discussion. Okay? World-class research and promoting teaching of physiological sciences, which was absent before. So these are very important because if your whole organizational mission is not strong, what flows from there is going to be weak. And then we just did minor tweaks to the mission. So you can see in blue, very small things. Young physiologist comes in, journals and social media and so on. So first job was workstream 1 to see can we increase membership. So I did a lot of personal calls. One-on-one, reached out, translated emails into different languages with Google Translate and send it out. Okay? And see who responded. We could list 2021, Zambia joined us. Professor Fastomi, and we offered him also an ex officio position on the council. Okay? Then I began chatting and I got hold of Professor Abdul Latif, which was a blessing, and we had good chats. And I said, now you drive the East African side, which he did with tremendous effort, beyond his duties. So I'm very appreciative of that. And by May 22, we established the AAPS. And so you can see we brought on more countries, and Professor Abdul Latif also ex officio on the council. And then I had lots of discussions with my French colleagues, like the French translations and so on. Attended meetings, and eventually they also agreed to join us. Okay, the SA2P in short, with those countries, but also maintaining their independence, of course, as SA2P, but AAPS acting more as a federal sort of system, where umbrella and all of these societies with a good degree of independence also to do their own thing. So, in 2 years we've increased membership from 4 to 16. So I think this is probably the big success that I want to share with you today. Perhaps boast and brag a bit about it a little bit. Then the database, we have work on that done. It's an ongoing and living document. Okay, so this is what we've got so far, 1,257 people listed. And you can see the breakdown per country. Nigeria is very strong, and the rest of the countries listed. And down on this side, we've got all the countries listed. But interestingly, if you look at the data, Tunisia, Zimbabwe, Namibia, Mauritius, Eritrea, they're not part of AAPS, but it represents an opportunity for us to approach those individuals and countries and to bring them on board for the next 2 years if we look forward. And then in terms of links with others, we've got great support, I must say, from Professor Susan Ray, who always pulls us in. So we had a nice session at Europhysiology 2022, Africa-Europe collaboration, Professor Im Khan also assisting. Unfortunately, I was also booked to get there, but visa issues didn't get me there. But we'll be featuring on the international stage more. Our links, you see, the African voice is heard. This is my message. Increasingly, with the support of others, the IUPS, APS, and so on and so on. So these are some of the areas where we all play roles. So we can take pride, I think, as Africans. Often we're seen a bit as the beggars on the world stage. We don't have to be. We can take our position with pride as Africans and as African physiologists. We play roles in all of those. So I think the message there is we broke down those egotism and silo mentality and to work together to take us forward. You can see the progress. It's not done. You see that road still stitches everything. So there's more work to be done, but if we work together as we've done, and this meeting is testimony to that, I think we're on a good track. Then, number 3, in terms of training, teaching and learning. So the database, we've also asked information on that part. So we also need to analyze that. What people are teaching, how do we bring groups together from that. And then we've arranged webinars, as I mentioned before. We also paid costs for 2 council members to attend the SA2P meeting in Dakar, Senegal, earlier this year. Professor Ramis was one of them. So, as part of our commitment towards building bridges, we spend that money, and that kind of handsomely for us. And we've now just completed this physiology curriculum for African University Kapuni. Physio Kafun, it's known as. So Professor D. Silverthorne also assisted us with that. And so we'll discuss this tomorrow a bit more and sort of unveil this as well. So I think this is also significant progress that we've made, that it's a sort of guide for teaching and learning assessments of physiology, and how you can use that to guide you in terms of your lecturing of students. And then in terms of capacity building, again at this workshop in Copenhagen, we had, it was nice, young people presenting their work from Africa on a global stage, which was tremendous. And then we also had the opportunity to share work on a center of excellence, which was Karma, which I could do virtually. And again, we put our name out there. We also, in the meantime, promoting networking. So in the past, this was not known. Sudan has got an annual meeting. So we promote this, and people attend. I gave a talk there, opening speech. And virtually we can sit in here. So we're beginning to break these silos. Likewise, this was the Physiological Society of Southern Africa one, PSSA. That's Stellenbosch, beautiful the city. And so again, we had people sitting in virtually at least, and people attending from other African countries. In terms of conferences and awards, we want to we're still working on some of these things. Enhance the value proposition for AAPS members. This is one of them. In this region, people can attend and you get some value at least from AAPS in terms of growing yourself as a knowledge base. Okay? We co-host conferences now, like with SA2P, and we've drafted an outline for new awards, for example. And we honor people who think they're not posthumously necessarily. So these, Professor Ramis came up with some of these awards that we want to implement hopefully at the next AAPS, the big conference in 2025. So these are just all awards. Student Travel Award, like we've done for this meeting. So capacity building, because we have to ensure sustainability as we go forward as an organization. Yeah, and so some good news, I got this from Professor Yasin Al-Wazir, that we're going to have the next Congress, the big AAPS Congress in Egypt. So you can start saving now. So, and we've got 2 SA2P members will be included as on the LOC for Egypt 2025. Professor Akadir is one of them. This is it, Ismailia, Egypt. He sent me these slides, so I had to include it. So, for the PR. So, this was supposed to be held in Sudan, this meeting. And it's just unfortunate, Professor Ramis will tell you that there was an LOC established and we had to cancel this and move it to Egypt because of the situation in Sudan. Although they are assisting on the LOC for the Egypt Congress. Professor Yasin Al-Wazir is handling the Congress, and this is some of the sort of sessions that will be focused on. We've already got some confirmed speakers, which is exciting, and we hope to attract some more speakers from international and from the African continent itself also, because we believe in having a nice mix of the two. So that's Ismailia, Prof. Yasin sent me this. It's the north part of Egypt, sits there, onto the Suez Canal. That's the venue. And there's a nice lake there and the canal as well. So it's a lovely venue. So you better mark your calendars. 13 to 15 February. Oh yeah, it's not so hot also. 20 degrees or something like that. And then, just to note, in terms of the communication, the Workstream 6, we've launched a brand new website also. It's totally remodeled. Please visit that. The Journal of the AAPS, ongoing work, appointed a new editor-in-chief, 2 deputy editors, a new editorial board, no publication fees, and it's linked to the AAPS website. So we need more people to submit, and not only from a few countries, to get accreditation. And we're going to invite some of our international speakers to write a little editorial here, just for us to boost the prestige of the journal. And something that we can be proud of as well. Now that's the sort of reflecting part. I've just in the latter part look at some of the challenges and then how we can go forward potentially. Challenges. We've got big problems with banking. Just to arrange this conference was a nightmare with the AAPS banking accounts. Moving money across the continent very, very difficult. We're working on that. We fixed up a lot of that. Subscriptions by our affiliate members is not always paid because of the banking problem. We lost the annual ADI funding for our secretariat. So we've got a full-time person helping us with this, so that's a challenge going forward. We've got a relatively low funding base. We've got a lack of continuity with new council handovers because you start from scratch almost. And there can be increased representativity of council from other countries. So we have to look at that as well. Cost of exchange for staff, students, travel, difficult. It's easier to go from Cape Town to Dubai than to Dar es Salaam, and cheaper. So how do we work with that? And then we still lack genuine research and teaching networks and collaboration. For now, it's just nice terms on a piece of paper. But our next challenge would be to actually set up such networks and get funding to support them. And then young physiologists, early career physiologists, limited role. So that must change. Solutions, I've got 10 points that I'm almost done. So one would be to work on increasing our funding base. We've got to go out and see how we can do that. So that we can begin to grow an endowment. And we use that capital to generate funds for our activities. Versus every time going to look for funds. We've got to share our current success and future plans. We've got to go out on the road and see what we can collect in terms of funding. We've got some new constitutional changes as well that we believe will increase representativity of council. I'm going to share that with you. So for 2025, there's a new procedure. We're going to open up a call for each affiliate member to nominate 2 representatives to council. So you're going to have EASDS, each one will nominate 2, and an open call for another 2 nominations for council, anywhere on the continent. That's the closing date. It will be vetted by AAPS Council, and you'll have a new council in waiting. It's about going to be 16 members, but you can see the spread will be far better, almost like a federal type of system. And they can elect their own exco. And they will be formally constituted during the General Assembly. Okay? And I'm not standing again. We've got to move on to the younger people to take over. So in terms of solutions, yeah. So number 4, we can target those other countries I've identified. Ghana, Namibia, Botswana, Mauritius, North Africa. It's also, we've got to see how we can co-opt them. So my target for 2025 is to have 20 countries under the umbrella of AAPS. We get there. In terms of solutions, I think we need to look and identify centers of excellence, nodes of excellence. Ideally, north, east, west, south regions of Africa. Okay? And then that should begin to function as nodes of excellence for student staff exchanges, for research projects, sharing teaching and learning skills and ideas. So we need to work on a framework for this. Yeah, thanks. With the suitable funding mechanisms in place. How will we fund this? Is it via Erasmus grants? NIH? We have to look to make it sustainable. You've got Extract A, indigenous knowledge, I've got a mouse or rat model of hypertension, obesity. It's a big problem to translate that in that value of death. So, and then you've got replication issues as well. If you do that same experiment in another laboratory, you can struggle to do that, as they've shown in many papers. So how do we use our networks to overcome this? This is my actual suggestion. I think this paper was published September 2023. So this is a preclinical study looking at 2,600 animals together across over 6 laboratories. And they repeat that same protocol across those laboratories. But they use inclusion criteria, exclusion, all of those, randomization, and then they would combine all of this together. So I think that's how you can overcome this translation barrier. So I think this, for us, is one opportunity. So that if we decide as an African enterprise, we're going to look at one preclinical study, I can't think of it, let's say hypertension and extract A, we're going to need that. Then we need to replicate that in 6 laboratories. Push up the animal numbers, and we all do the same protocol, and we combine that thing. It will be far stronger and more likely to be funded as well, I think, if we apply more funding. So these are, for example, I think low-hanging fruit. This is just in my field as an example. Because there's a little amount of work done in Africa itself. A lot of these studies have been done in Europe and in the States. But just in our case, quantification of the non-communicable disease burden. What's the prevalence that we need to study? Risk factors locally. What would that be? BMI. Who says that cutoff point applies to us? It hasn't been done. Waist circumference. Can we not do that together? North, east, west, south together, and we tackle that? That would be a significant advance. But we have to use the European classification, for example. So it may not apply at all to us. And then we need to be smart, successful interventions in our low-income settings. Be clever and use technologies that's suitable to us. So there's another opportunity I'm trying to say. If we look at preclinical, and if we look at clinical, for example, if we look at BMI or waist circumference or whatever we're going to look at, we can do that, and we do it together as a team through those nodes of excellence. Underrepresentation, this is in the Lancet for women being not studied well, but the same I want to say for Africa's criteria and risk factors. So that is underrepresentation. There are all these, in my field for example, we know these things. Stop smoking, control your cholesterol, these for cardiometabolic health. Okay? It's well known, it's not rocket science, this is exercise. All the benefits for cardiovascular health. But can we take that information and we use like mobile health, just by cell phones. We send messages that works. So this review has shown that. To change people's behavior, for example. But again, we work together on such a project within health. And then you can tailor it, for example, this was on African American music, because there was a particular, they had to package that message in a particular way. Again, we can do that for ourselves here, the same thing. And then to consider also some people would have low health literacy, and you need to package your messages in a particular way. So, last few solutions, we need to establish the journal of AAPS as an accredited journal. Look at physiology curriculum renewal, as we've just got this new document. But also the mode of delivery is important. Active teaching, collaborative learning, all of those kind of things. I see there's a talk or two on that. Okay? Broad access, so people can sit in a village, can be trained remotely. And we've got to be relevant for a rapidly changing world. We've got to think what are we doing and how we do it on the teaching, learning, and assessment front. For example, we've looked at this a bit. This is the world as it's changing. Post-truth. This is the word of the year 2016, Oxford Dictionary. What does that mean? Truth is based on my feelings and emotions, and not necessarily facts. We see all the time now, the vaccinations and so on. So my graduate, we're in the knowledge business, so to speak. And we pump out our graduates, they encounter this, how do they handle that? In the real world, are they upskilled enough to deal with that issue? Decolonization of curriculum, something we're looking at, for example. Scientific elitism, science has got no context. We don't need to know philosophy, history. I'm a scientist or a medical scientist, biomedical, it's not relevant to me. And then the fourth industrial revolution, AI, we're being replaced increasingly. What do we offer then as an advantage to be human, so to speak, if I can put it like that? We've got creativity, critical thinking, humanity. All of those things must also begin to feature in your curriculum increasingly versus the machine. Okay? So we did this last few slides. We introduced a new postgraduate module dealing with those issues. I'm sharing this with you just to tease you a bit to start talking about it and discussing. How can you apply it? And we want to filter this down into the undergraduate, the medical, allied health sciences as well. We wanted to address this gap. We looked at all of these things, reflective approach, authentic learning. So we look at case studies in the real world, look at the complexity of the scientific process. The students got texts to read. And then in group discussions, no slides. Mohammed, what do you think? And he said, I don't think wrong. I said, now I want to hear what you think on that issue. Because the mind is not just a vessel to be filled. It's something that you kindle that fire. And then a cultivation of humanity as well into the curriculum. So this, we combine different disciplines. Anatomy, genetics, physiology. We mixed up the groups and then we had such discussions in class. This is some of the topics you see. Philosophers and science. Thomas Kuhn, Karl Popper. How does it influence what we're doing as researchers? The nature of the scientific process. Critical. What is a preprint? What do you call it? Some terms, the one that you print without peer review. Predatory journals, the peer review process, all of those things, but in a critical way. What is an expert? And conspiracies, how do you debunk conspiracies? Racism in medicine. There's a history. We go over that and discuss that. Decolonization and a holistic science. Do we look at indigenous knowledge more?